with Mark Stapp and Jeff O'Griffe at a meeting. City Center, so they want to go and ask for half cent for it. Go for that. They don't care. All right. Let's see. Do we have a quorum? It looks like we do. All right. Well, come to order then.
This is such a.
All right. Thank you guys for attending the SCTCA CAC meeting. And let's go around and do self-introductions. We'll start over here.
I'm Jeff Blakesy, representing Save Our Sonoma County Roads.
Mark Hale with BIA. Tom Conlon, representing the Sonoma County Conservation Coalition.
Riggs Locka, Sonoma County Wine Growers.
Rick Lutman, Sonoma County League of Women Voters.
Eris Weaver, Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
Steve Bertlebow with the Sierra Club.
Gary Glazer, North Bay Electric Auto Association.
Angela Conti, Paratransit, Transit Paratransit Coordinating Committee.
Mark Soilen, representing District 2.
Musa Bessi, representing the Santa Rosa Chamber.
Tom Batting, District 3.
John Bly, Chair, and I've noticed we've got a lot more microphones up here. Next improvement is all you guys get microphones back there, right? All right, there we go. So let's have introductions back there too, please. Thank you.
Ross Clendenin, SCTCA.
Chris Cohn, SCTCA.
Shauna Gauze, SCTCA.
Margot Kanyas, SCTCA.
Dana Teray, SCTCA.
Dwayne DeWitt, Roseland.
Adam Garcia, SCTCA.
Steph Brett, SCTCA.
And I don't see anybody joining us virtually. Is that correct, Don and Ross? Virtually nobody.
That is correct.
Oh, here we go. We got two more.
Sit there, you have to present.
Here, we can scoot closer to each other and.
We're doing self-introductions, guys.
Introduce yourself, Brian. Me?
Yeah.
Brian Lang, 4th District.
That's like.
And who might you be, our masked man?
Yeah, masked man. I sneezed a few times at home. My wife said, "You gotta wear a mask." So, okay. David Harris, I'm here representing the Transportation Land Use Coalition.
All right. Thank you all for attending. Let's go to public comment on items not on the regular agenda. I'm assuming Mr. DeWitt has something to say.
Kindly.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll be a presenter.
You're a presenter, yes.
Kindly. My name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland. A decade ago, I was on the Sonoma County Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for a couple of years. And I've always paid attention to the fact that whenever you're at a stop sign as a pedestrian throughout the county, drivers look at you as if you're an impediment. You're bothersome that you're there. And it's really important. We have a thing now they call Vision Zero, and there's an outlook that will try to lower the amount of fatalities of people hit by cars. So my Roseland area has had some people killed, and I've always paid attention to something that we might do. The city of Santa Rosa has implemented an idea where they put a white walking symbol of a pedestrian just before the light changes so that the pedestrian can begin to walk out. I'd like to see throughout the county that we actually make it a default that every traffic light at least has an immediate default that the pedestrian white or green sign goes on. And then go further and put the clock so that the driver doesn't get so anxious he's willing to run over the pedestrian to make that right-hand turn. All right. And it's something that can be done, especially with new technology and this whole idea of artificial intelligence. We could actually program all of those traffic lights and traffic signals to help implement Vision Zero. That's how you have to say it, Vision Zero. Never mention my name, just go forward with what we got possible. Then the next thing is safe routes to school. They built a school on a rural street called Burbank Avenue, which was then in the county. We had a scenic road designation. We had a beautiful road, great tree cover, good stuff. And then over 15 years ago, the school district, well, it's 20 now, man. They decided they're going to put a school in there. They're a kingdom unto themselves. They can cut down trees. They can do whatever they want. Don't have to worry about anything that you folks might say. But because of safe routes to school, they will pay more attention now to the fact that they have drivers going through that school district zone at 40 and 50 miles an hour and not caring. There's signs up now. And finally, a crosswalk was put in a full 15 years after the school was built to get across Burbank. But the police no longer take it as a priority. The CHP left our area. Sheriff never comes by anymore. So there's no enforcement to really have safety for these children. Project, good idea. Let me leave you with this. Let's treat it like Nevada does. If you go in a school zone in Nevada, even if there's no school in session, you got to slow down and they will give you tickets. That is how people will pay attention and save our children. Thank you kindly. I may be back for more.
Okay.
Safe routes to schools on the agenda.
Dwayne, a quick question on the programming those signalizations. Is that something that they can do just via programming, or do you know if they have to upgrade what they have in existence now?
They haven't divulged to me the actualities. At the city of Santa Rosa, you
Oh,
have
okay.
to put in a Public Records Request Act just to
Got
get
it.
basic info. But I
Is-
bet Mr. Bly could find out.
Oh, it's down, yeah.
That's the best.
Thank you.
It is mainly programming the timing of the signal. So when you have the pedestrian on, you allow them, and then you delay a little bit, few seconds, the green light for cars,
Yeah.
So you don't need any hardware.
Cool. Anyways, good ideas, I think. All right, any other public comment on non-agendized items? Seeing none, we'll go to the meeting minutes from June 29th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I will move to approve minutes. Tom Collins.
A second, so we can get into discussion. Second, Jeff. Discussion corrections. Everybody poured over those rigorously and every word. You good with them? All those in favor of the minutes as presented? Oh, roll call.
Roll call.
Have to have a roll.
Thank you. Roll call.
Chair, we,
Wait a minute. Do we need a roll call if there's no?
Chair Bly, we don't have anybody online, so you're okay.
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 All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Thank you.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, if I may, while I have the microphone, I just wanted to give a very brief update that staff has created some draft resources for committees, as was discussed earlier, for chairs and for general meeting reference. The committee leads are meeting this week to refine and approve these, and I'm hoping to add that as an item to the August CAC agenda. So thanks for your patience.
All right. Thank you very much. And I think we're on a Measure M and Go Sonoma project presentation. Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition Safe Routes to School Update, SCBC staff.
Just move to a different chair.
Give a brief introduction. I'll have you. I'm just gonna, you can stay there. I'll steal your mic. All right. Hello, Mr. Chair. So SCTCA receives federal funding for the Safe Routes to School program through the MTC One Bay Area Grant Program. And we contract with the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition to implement the education and encouragement program. We have a contract with SCBC. The current contract goes through the end of this fiscal year. And they've been running the program for many, many years. And their passion for bicycle education and encouragement and creative engagement really shows through the really positive feedback that comes from both students, schools, teachers, and parents as well. So they've reached thousands of kids at hundreds of schools throughout the county. On the staff level, I've been managing the grant and contract with SCBC for a while. But Margot Ocañas has been working on Safe Routes to School infrastructure planning over the last couple of years through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, and has been coordinating closely with SCBC on that work. She's now taking over the management of the grant and contract with SCBC for the education and encouragement program. So I'm going to hand it over to Margot if she wants to say a few words, and then Eris.
Thank you, Dana. Just wanted to provide you that context because we did secure this Safe Streets and Roads for All grant really with the objective of trying to broaden Safe Routes to School to be both non-infrastructure and all the good work that SCBC is doing, as well as to do infrastructure design and implementation through Quick Build or other. So the transition of shifting from Dana to myself really ensures that the non-infrastructure and the infrastructure sides of this program are really well coordinated. So that's a bit of background. I'm happy to answer any questions after the presentation that Eris is going to run through, who's doing this on behalf of Christina, who is out on some well-deserved vacation. But if you have any broader Safe Routes to School questions, I'm here to answer them. So thank you.
Thanks, Margot. Thank you.
And does this work? Do I get to drive? Yeah. I hate that whole next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, usually, so Christina Poundsel, who many of you have already met in the past, put this slideshow together. So she knows far more about every detail of the program than I do, but I have copious notes from her. So hopefully any questions that aren't answered, I can handle or get back to her. So the goals, and I'm going to go through some of these kind of quickly because many of you have seen them many times, that the goals of the Safe Routes to School program is to get more students and families walking or biking to school, teaching them how to be safe doing so, and also identifying barriers that keep people from being able to do so. The infrastructure stuff that Margot mentioned. Now, of course, y'all know the benefits of cycling, so I don't have to go through all of these on this slide, and particularly in the school context, there's research that shows better academic performance when kids are getting more exercise, taking their bike to school. So that's just some of the many benefits of getting more people on bikes. As Dana said, we're in the last year of a 9-year contract through the One Bay Area grant program. And so this is just a little bit about our funding so far and how much we've spent so far in that time. We've underspent a little bit, but don't worry, we'll spend the rest of the fiscal year. That's not a problem. But the other thing I want to show you is that we do have other sources of funding for the program. That OBAG grant is the bulk of it, but we have several other grants and contracts that are also contributing to the program for a total expenditure over this last fiscal year or this last school year of about $500,000. Now, in the past, the OBAG share of the total cost was much higher than it is right now. It was between 85 and 90% of our total expenditures. And now that we're getting some of these other sources of income, the OBAG grant is only about 75% of the cost of the program. Of course, costs are going up, right? Everything is going up. And I do like to give my staff a raise every once in a while, besides just materials going up. but we're also wildly popular and we have more demand for our programs than, we can accommodate sometimes. So we can accommodate more of them with more funds coming in, but that's just a piece of where that's all going. So you've probably heard, or this is a structure used in a lot of different public health contexts of if you want to make change in behavior, there are multiple things that all have to happen. Education, encouragement, engineering, enforcement, evaluation, all of these things work together to make something change. You can't just throw just education at something and expect it to change behavior. If that was true, no one on the planet would still smoke a cigarette now, would they? So obviously the engineering and the enforcement part is outside of us, but we do work with the cities and law enforcement to, coordinate with those different issues. A little timeline of what our year looks like. All the gray is right now, July, when everybody's on vacation. So one of the pieces that we start with every school year is in the evaluation realm. We have done GIS mapping that you see an example up here from Proctor Terrace Elementary School. We get anonymized addresses from the schools and put them on the map so that we can see, and those concentric circles that you see are quarter mile, half mile, mile, 2 mile away from the school. So we can see the distribution of where the students live, what percentage of the students live within a reasonable walking or biking distance from school. And it gives us a little bit of a sense of what some of the challenges might be if there's a street or a railroad track or something that is between most of the students and the school, then we know that that's going to add a challenge to people getting around. We also do tallies of at the beginning of the school year and again at the end, how do you get to school? It's done on a specific day, and you can see from here, the vast majority of kids are still getting to school, being driven, and much smaller amounts with school bus, when walking and biking. That's, again, just one school, 1 year's chart. But the other thing that we have been doing more of is doing walk and bike audits of the schools. So a group goes out, because you can only see so much looking at a map, right? At some point you have to go look at things on the ground. So we have a group of the Safe Routes staff, people from the city or county that's relevant, people from the school, maybe some parents, and go walk around the area and see what are the barriers to kids walking and biking and what might we do about them. And it can be a real eye-opener for folks who haven't really thought about that, because if you're not someone who walks or rides a bike and you just drive, you don't notice the same things that you do when you're actually walking around and looking at the street through the eyes of a child trying to get somewhere. So that's kind of some of the evaluation and a little bit of the engineering stuff. Oops, did I get out of order? Nope. So this is a list of all the schools that we work with. So we're 74 schools this year. The ones that are listed here, the 55 listed, are the ones that we do multiple touches. We're doing multiple things in that school. And then there's an additional 19 that might only do like one event. So we are everywhere. And then we have different encouragement programs, right? Things that are fun, that are playful, that encourage getting people out, like Bike to School Day. Walking, we do walking school buses and bike trains along with that. So we have a whole bunch of different events that can help people get going. Well, then we also do education in the classroom. We teach the kids at the littlest ones, like second grade, we're mostly focusing on pedestrian stuff, how to look both ways before you cross the street and all of that. And in the higher grades, we obviously get into more details. And then the fourth grade bike rodeos. This is the most popular thing we do, that every school wants us to come do it. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of people and a lot of time, but they are really, really fun. When we do a bike rodeo in the school, it's all the fourth graders in the whole school. And we have 4 different courses set out in the parking lot. And a few staff and volunteers at each one with whatever skill or safety feature that they're working on. So we've got, little stop signs and railroad crossings and, all the things for them to try. We give out helmets at that as well. And it's a lot of fun. It's exhausting, but it is a lot of fun. And we also do some, not as much, but we are doing more with middle and high school education. And one issue that we have been having to talk about and deal with and educate around is the whole thing with the e-bikes and the e-motos, right? Everyone's up in arms about kids zooming along on these electrified things and not being very smart about it and causing issues and stuff. And so we've put together some educational materials, did a webinar for parents. And one thing that my staff did was they went out to the middle schools and the high schools, to the bike racks, and they counted any of the electric devices. And the vast majority of them were not legitimate legal e-bikes. The majority of them, anywhere between 50 and 80% of them, were the e-motos that are too powerful, go too fast, that don't fit the legal requirements for an e-bike. And it was worse at the middle schools than at the high schools, which at first surprised me, but then I guess I thought, well, high school, they're wanting cars, so maybe that makes more sense that would be the case. And that graph with the blue and red is just looking at different schools. And the blue bar is how many were actual e-bikes, and the red bar is how many were the illegal e-motos. So that's something that we've all been spending a lot of time having to educate people about, because I think folks are ignorant, don't know that this isn't an e-bike. Well, they said it was an e-bike when I bought it, but it's not. So there's some legislation pending in the state that would address that piece of the issue. We also do learn to ride a bike classes in partnership with the Santa Rosa, Windsor, and Petaluma recreation departments. So just kids coming and learning how to ride a bike. Well, and one of the things I didn't mention about the bike rodeos is every year, this last year was about 17% of the kids who were there, 4th graders, who've never ridden a bike ever in their life. I mean, how old are you in 4th grade? 10, 9, 10, something like that. Is anybody, I'm sure most of us here were already riding bikes all over the place by 10. And so that has become something that during the bike rodeo that the staff have to do is to spend some time off on the side with the kids who have never ridden a bike. And the vast majority of them are riding a bike by the end of the day. So my staff is really good at teaching folks how to ride a bike, including adults. We do occasionally do some learn to rides for some adults who've never ridden the bike. Okay, and then a lot of community, whoops, I went too fast. Community rides and workshops, getting whole families together to learn about how to ride successfully and safely. And for the last few years, we've done a kids bike adventure camp with Santa Rosa Parks and Rec. So a week-long day camp, all focused on bicycling, which is a hit. And we could probably fill more of them than just the 1 week, but my education staff do need to take vacations at some point in the year. So that's a little more of a challenge. We do partner with a lot of the bike shops because while all those kids come to the rodeos and they bring their bike. And a lot of those bikes are in really bad shape. So we always have some mechanics on hand to do those minor repairs, pump up the tire. And then we also have a fleet of kids' bikes. So if a kid doesn't have a bike, or if the bike they come with just can't be made rideable safely in the time allotted, we have other bikes that the kids are able to participate. And my staff is also really good and creative about dealing with any adaptations of any kids who have some physical or medical condition that makes them hard to ride a standard bike. They're zip tying things on there. They're figuring out ways to get that kid on the bike. Then, of course, you'll see my folks at all sorts of events, fairs, and other things, just out talking to people. So this slide is sort of a total of all the people for all the kids who've worked in all the schools. So this is not the community programs, but just the school programs. 61 schools, close to 10,000 students over just this school year. Now, that's not even counting the, like I said, the things that are sort of community driven as opposed to in the school program. So we are touching a lot of kids with the hope of turning them into lifelong cyclists. And that's it. The different images that you've seen in there were from an art contest that we also do once a year around biking. That is a lot of fun as well.
Okay.
So I will stop there and answer questions.
I'll let you handle it.
You'll let me handle that? Okay, Rick.
You mentioned, talking to the mic here, you mentioned your staff several times. I'm interested in your staff, how big it is, what kind of training do they have? Are they all paid? Are they some volunteers?
My staff is paid. We do a lot with a little, let me tell you. So my Safe Routes to School staff, we have 3 full-time and 2 regular part-time employees. And then we have several seasonal folks that we just bring in for the rodeos because they take a lot of personnel all at one time and we don't have enough other work to have all of them on the staff all the time. We do also, parents and other folks at the school will also volunteer during the day, but predominantly it's the trained staff. My staff have all, oh, that's my phone telling me I'm at 15 minutes. The agenda says I get 30, but Margot told me I had 13, so I figure 15 is probably okay. Most of my staff are certified instructors through the League of American Bicyclists. And several of them they've been doing this for over 10 years. Christina, the director, I think has been there 15. So we've got a lot of experience on the staff.
Thank you.
One question and then kind of a comment with a question. The one question was, when you find that all of those kids with e-motos that require a driver's license, do you contact the parents or do you contact just the kids?
Well, we have not been taking on that enforcement. We've given that data to the schools.
Okay, well, hopefully the schools are contacting the parents because they should be liable.
Exactly.
Last year, I asked the question, what were the results? I mean, we've been doing this for years, and you would expect that we'd have less and less kids being driven to school by their parents. The one example you had up there was one of the better schools. Most of the schools, 85% of the students are being driven. And I couldn't tell over the years with all the programs that we've had that we've changed the profile. And the question I have is, what do we need to do to change the profile so that the money we're spending actually gives us results that have behavior change?
We can teach kids how to do things, but they can't do them if their parents don't let them.
That's what I thought was probably the problem.
So that's
to
one
be
piece
honest.
right there. That's one big piece, right? And sometimes the parents dropping kids off at school are the ones driving the worst, I mean, think about it. How many children who've been killed in Sonoma County by a vehicle? It happened in front of a school.
Well, maybe my question should have been the question of what parents program do we need? That's
Yeah.
not being facetious, right?
No, I think
Because
that's
kids do what their parents tell them to do
Mhm.
most of the time.
Then there's also, the infrastructure change, right? Some of the schools, it's when I showed you the map and where, where kids live in relation to school, there are many schools where most of the kids don't live within a bikeable or walkable distance. And the ease of interdistrict transfers in this county contributes to that. Right, there was one point at which none of the 25 kids who lived in my complex went to the local school, and they were all getting driven all over the county. So it's a multiplicity of factors, right? Let's see, Musa had a.
I understand.
Assuming somebody back here will like yank me off.
Okay.
I'll point to him.
Okay.
My understanding there is about $650,000 you did not spend yet of the contract.
I'd have to go back to that slide. Because we just started the last year of it, and we have one big project that's in that bucket that will get done. Let's see, that was. Come on, go backwards. All right, it's not wanting to let me move. But yeah.
I don't know what the dollars are.
It was very early on. But
No, you go more up in the beginning. In fact.
There. Oh, no.
No, it is
before
more.
that one.
More.
Oh, now we have dueling remotes.
The one before.
One before that.
There. 606.
Yeah. So we do have a good chunk.
So about $600,000. What do you plan to do with them?
What do we plan to do with it?
Yeah, because you are saying the contract is ended, through June 30th or not, You still under contract, yeah?
The contract, this particular contract ends in June 30th of 2027.
27.
Yeah, so we have a full year.
Okay, I misunderstood.
It's this year, okay.
I thought you already ended the contract.
No. We're just in the last.
Okay, thank you.
See, I know,
I have a quick one.
Mhm.
Was there a purchasing program for low-income kids for getting on bikes?
we do not operate one.
Okay.
We have bikes that we bring to the events for kids to use during the event.
But the funds aren't being used in any way to fund kids
We
that
do not buy
can't
bikes
afford
with any
bikes.
of those funds.
Okay.
There's another grant we have that we're looking at, a program that would help get some kids on bikes. But obviously bikes aren't exactly cheap. So we get them helmets. We do get them helmets though.
So when you do audit, what's the makeup of a typical audit team? Your staff and who else?
Okay, so our staff, generally someone from Public Works or Transportation of the city that the school is in. Some personnel from the school itself, and often some parents or neighbors. And for each of those groups I just mentioned, sometimes it'll be more than one person. So it could be anywhere from about 4 people to about as many as a dozen, depending on the interest.
Okay, that might partially answer my next question is, if infrastructure is the biggest impediment here, does SCBC write a report based on these audits to the various jurisdiction, or do you just rely on that audit person to make the info trickle up to the appropriate active transportation person?
Christina writes up reports of all the data that was collected and the suggestions made. And again, it's usually someone from like a school here in Santa Rosa. There'd be somebody, Dan Hennessy might be there, and people from the school district. And so those get distributed to all of those entities. And we've been working with many of these entities, particularly in Santa Rosa and Petaluma, with a task force with additional folks. And we're seeing many changes being made based on the data that we're collecting and sharing with folks. Small stuff so far, but we are starting to see.
So is it safe to say the last few years, the impediments or the desired routes from schools, it's pretty much fixed? Like every year they want the same street to be improved or?
Oh, okay, we don't do
Is
an
it-
audit of every school every year, if that's what
Okay.
you're thinking.
Oh, okay.
Maybe complement the
Okay.
infrastructure.
Thank you.
Grab the mic.
Certainly. As a reminder, the Safe Streets and Roads for All fiscal year 23 grant, which has 4 tasks. The largest is the Safe Routes to School. There were several components. One was a prioritization. So it was important to take the 204 operating schools within the county and prioritize them based on highest need. One of the indicators that we used to help rank the schools was based on the density of students that were in walking and biking distance from the school, because we wanted the schools that had a community that were more easily mode shiftable to float to the top. We also include an indicator of crashes because we also wanted those schools that had children that had a propensity for walking and biking, but also perhaps were in more of harm's way to also float to the top. Through this planning grant, we have identified or will have touched 35 of those top schools by the end of our grant, which ironically is also ending in June of next year. So that through that 35 school process, for every school, we have had a site assessment opportunity. And to Eris's point, we include the city staff, district staff. We've been getting the operations and the transportation, school bus people from the district, the principal, the parents, et cetera. So we're building off that same model of a task force in essence. And truthfully, Petaluma and Santa Rosa have long had an established task force, but through the process of the grant that we're doing now, again, touching those 35 schools, we're engaging every one of the jurisdictions in the county with the hope that by the time we finish the grant next spring, we will have in place more task forces in each of the other cities other than just Petaluma and Santa Rosa. So we're getting to know all the superintendents, we're getting to know the principals, we're getting to build a relationship with the city staff so that when we finish the grant next spring and have design plans already for 35 schools, we have a somewhat well-oiled machine to continue to working through the remainder of those high priority schools. The deliverable next spring, we will have 15% design plans for up to 3 miles of route improvement for every one of those schools. And what's helpful about that is it's really priming the cities to either take parts of it and drop it into their budget plans through their CIPs or prime them for grants. One of the big base maps that we use when we identify these priority corridors is we take advantage of the map that SCBC produces that shows where the students are located, and we also overlay that with the jurisdiction's adopted active transportation plan. Many of these plans to sit in the shelf, so it's really, we're using this opportunity to say to the city staff, when you come to the Safe Routes to School infrastructure planning process with us, please bring your ATP and any of those segments of the ATP that are within or close to these school zones. Let's design them out so that we're actually helping to not only help the school students, but at a citywide level, we're helping to build out the active transportation network.
So great. So that actually sets the stage really well for the question I wanted to raise, which is, I knew there was a prioritization happening for the infrastructure project that you're working on. But I noticed in Eris's presentation, those of us in Sonoma Valley are often frustrated by how we are often forgotten around the county. And I noticed that Eris's behavioral and educational program is only touching one school this past year in Sonoma Valley. That's Prestwood, which has now been closed and is reopening in the same campus as a charter school. So my question was, will the prioritization
We've talked about
process
that. Yeah.
be influencing where the behavioral program is targeted in future years?
So Christina and I have been in conversation about that. Please remember that as of now and through the remainder of the contract period with SCBC, the schools need to select themselves into the program. So Christina and I, because we are working more closely and really trying to balance the non-infrastructure, the infrastructure, that we're already in conversations about how this prioritization will inform both sides of the program. So again, that was sort of what made sense in shifting from Dana to myself, so that the non-infrastructure and the infrastructure side of the program are in sync. So. Sure.
Yeah, up until now, part of what schools have to apply to be part of the program, because there's more schools that want to play, right, than we have money for. And people are always asking us, why aren't you in this school? Why aren't you in that school? It takes a lot of work on the part of the school. There has to be somebody at the school who's invested in, because they've got to contact the parents. They have to help with the scheduling. There needs to be somebody who's a champion for it at the school, and not every school has had that.
Right. And it sounds like you've had difficulty in Sonoma Valley. We've had turnover in our superintendent and other situations in the Valley. Would you say you have a champion in the Valley right now, or are you still looking for someone to step up for those other schools?
Christina would be the person to answer that question.
Okay. I'll probably talk to Christina about that, because that's something I might be able to help with.
Can you share with us a little bit how you measure the metrics of making the route safer to school? In other words, did you start with a baseline that said we had X accidents or close calls per 100 kids going to school? How do you measure success? How do you measure that it's actually safer?
Oh, for a specific infrastructure project?
For the program?
I'm not sure, just for the program?
Yeah.
Well, we collect a lot of numbers, and it's always, what I would love to be able to say to you is,
we've reduced 50%.
Over these years, this many more percent of kids ride their bikes to school regularly. That is probably not the case. And if it was, it would have been hard for us to document it, because we do the tallies at the beginning and the end of the school year, right? On 1 or 2 days. If it's raining that day, then we have lousy numbers, right? Because people don't want to ride to school.
Is it just participation though, Eris, or is it just participation that you're measuring?
No, those tallies are, how did you get to school today? Did you walk? Did you bike? Did you get driven? And so it's looking at what percentage of students are arriving by what method.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the word safer. So how does that actually make the trip to school safer?
The more people are cycling, the safer it is for all of them. You know how when we were kids, there was big mobs of us walking and riding to school every day, and everybody driving a car knew that, right? And now, how many kids do you see walking to school where you go? Or how many people don't even see adult bicyclists either, right? Because there's fewer of us, and so we're not on the radar. So that is one piece. We're teaching the kids and the school communities how to be safe when they cycle. And then, as I said, all those E's, right, have to intersect. And we as an organization are great at the education and the encouragement part, but the infrastructure we can have some influence on, but we're not the ones building it, and we're not the ones enforcing the laws or choosing or not enforcing the laws. That makes sense?
Kind of. I ask the same question every.
I know, and I ask this.
Never seem to get to where
I ask the same question myself all the time. How do we measure that what the things we do are making a difference? And there are studies out there about the beneficial effects of some of these different programs. I just saw one today about bike programs in middle school resulting in better mental health among the students. But to specifically point to exact numbers here, what I would love to do if I had the money for it, I would like to get some grad student to do a survey of like college students here in the county, and how do they get around? And did they or did they not have a safe, a safe routes to school program when they were kids? I think that would be a cool thing to see, that kind of difference change.
Well, and I think part of our funding is that we would like to be putting our money towards the infrastructure work that would, if you identified someplace that you were showing drastic improvement on, whether it be a bike lane or sidewalks or better lit or whatever it happened to be, signalization, let's put our money towards that and see an actual improvement. I think it'd be well worth exploring if we could get those studies done.
And in the, other things that we've all heard in this committee, where the high injury networks, right, are the places that we want to try and fix first. Right?
Thank you.
Can I keep going?
It's not your primary task or goal, but I'm just curious. One of the things I find the most alarming is how few people are riding the bus. I mean, you've got all these people being delivered by cars now, and whether you love cars or hate cars, we don't like being a line behind all those cars dropping their kids off at school. We caused it. We took our kids to school in the car. And I just wondered if along your travels and the work you're doing is that you had any insight into why you think there's such a drastic drop off in the use of buses to school, because that's an existing infrastructure, and you think that would be a natural kind of middle step between, I'm not going to drive my kids to school, but I don't want them walking yet. But hey, the bus is pretty good.
And buses are the safest way for kids to get to school.
Yeah, and I'm wondering why that.
I don't really know. I'm getting out of my lane here, but my suspicion is many schools have stopped having school buses because of cost.
Oh, is that the case? Some schools don't even have buses?
Yeah, most of the schools here do not have buses.
Yeah.
Jeff, I can not have a microphone. I can say from where I live up in Windsor, for my kids to get from their school to home, it was quicker for them to walk or ride their bike than to take the bus, because the bus involved a transfer, or it was a very, very long circuitous route. And that was, they're in college now.
The same quality of bus routes we had.
It's not the 80s anymore. No, it's not.
I was way out on Crane Canyon Road, and we just walked to the end of the road on Pelham Hill Road, and they picked us up and took us to school. Yeah. We got beat up on the bus, but that was just part of
the process. Yeah, Rick, go ahead.
Okay. Well, you all know where to find me when you have other.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Rick, did you have a comment?
A final thought from Yogi Berra. I ain't buying my kid no encyclopedia. I let him walk to school like I did.
All right, thank you. I think we're on to revised Measure M, Go Sonoma and STIP exchange funds.
Public comment.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dwayne DeWitt from Roseland. As a boy, lots of people walked to school, rode their bikes. Ever see a stingray? So there was lots of stuff going on with people back in the day. I don't necessarily understand why the change has occurred for people to take their children to school in cars. But in our area of Roseland, 2 schools, Shepherd on West Avenue, Roseland Creek on Burbank Avenue, and then Roseland School on Sebastopol Road. All of them, tough traffic for the beginning of school and then at the end of school with people. And typically what surprises me, no offense to anybody here, women drivers in SUVs. Right?
Oh, Dwayne.
Yeah, but that's what's happening.
Don't go there.
With that in mind, I wanted to put forward something that we utilized back in the day when I was young. And the insurance company, AAA, actually provides funding to do safety patrol. And when I was young, I was involved with safety patrol. And having the kids involved in safety patrol helped them to learn about pedestrian safety and having them there with signs out in front of their school that were large. Typically, all of them were bigger than us kids. And they had a stop sign at the end, and the kids were wearing white belts. And we really liked it, and it worked. And to this day, AAA is still doing that, and schools can get money from AAA, and that helps with a safe route to school. And then I'll leave you with this. In my area, some land was bought by county taxpayers and deeded to the city of Santa Rosa for a bikeway on the south side of Roseland Creek between Burbank Avenue and McMinn Avenue. They've put a bikeway to the north side of the creek, and volunteers are going to try to make the one on the south side of the creek as originally envisioned. More children are walking and riding bikes because they can get to school with those types of pathways. So the way we get people out of the cars, I believe, is with alternative routes, active transportation, biking, walking, that whole approach. I'll be there to help when I can, and I'll keep reminding them in Roseland. Thank you kindly.
All right, thank you. Shauna, you're up. Item 4.2 on your agenda, guys and gals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members.
Are you a good driver?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank God.
I'm a good driver.
Make sure.
Did any kids like it?
Except in an SUV.
I don't have an SUV. I have an electric car. You see my halo?
Yep.
So item 4.2 is just an informational item. You'll recall last month that we brought you a presentation schedule for all of the Measure M and Go Sonoma projects. We just are providing this to you because there were some changes. You will notice that Iris spoke to you today instead of next month, which was how it was depicted last month. So we made a couple of changes. Those are reflected in red in the staff report in your agenda packet.
Well, thank you for that. I think we were going to have the bus folks here today or
No, the bus folks are scheduled for September, and it was requested, or there was an inquiry posed about whether SMART would be included. Because you all generally have a very high interest in the SMART discussion, we booked them separately. So that is one of the other changes that we made.
It's in red here in February.
I just want to say I appreciate, because I do want to prepare and send some questions in to the bus people before they come and talk to us here. And I think that'd lead to a better conversation, hopefully. The other thing I was curious about is last meeting, we were going to hear from Healdsburg, and I noticed that they're pushed down to the very end of this year's agenda. I was curious to understand the rationale.
Well, because there hasn't been a significant change in their projects since the last time they spoke to you. They did provide us with a presentation that we emailed out to the committee so that if there were any questions regarding the presentation that they were going to give you, we'd be happy to take those and then get you those answers or bring them in beforehand if it was significant.
Okay, so you're telling me I need to go actually read my email. Thank you.
Yeah, Jerry.
Just comment. I mean, when we had the presentation on Sebastopol's bike improvement on Highway 12, there's the class 4 section, and I asked the question, where does it go to? And they finished it. And I went to the end of it, and it goes to a bridge, goes no place. So I was just wondering, what was the plan? And we didn't have an answer the last time around. Does anybody know?
I can certainly try to bring that back. The city of Sebastopol does have additional improvements that they are planning that are part of an application for the safe route or for the Sonoma County Transportation.
They can't go past there because that's not in the city anymore. They took the class 4 right to the edge of the city, and it ends at a bridge and at a creek, and there's nothing after that other than roads.
Okay, so what was the question then?
I don't know why we bothered putting in a class 4 to no place unless there's a plan to go beyond it.
Well, that would be a question for the city council.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the active
Sure,
transportation
but-
plan.
The item before us is the schedule for the presentation.
Well, the reason I bring it up is we're funding, right? We're funding something, and are we not asking a question about why are you building that? And in this particular case, I can't figure out why we built it. The other part that's there is a class 4 actually ends at a road and goes into a neighborhood. Makes some sense, but there's about 100 yards worth of it that goes no place. And I didn't understand why it was done. Because there was money for them to spend and we sent it to them. It'd be better to spend it on something else. I thought that was our objective as a committee. Was to
I think
be
it's
looking
a-
at the funds.
I think it's a reasonable question as to how that project got through the works and got identified without really being connected to any other pathways and so forth. I don't know where that question should go. Should it go to staff or should?
I can certainly take it back to Sebastopol. Again,
Okay.
there is another application for additional improvements that should link up with that path that is part of the SCTCA funding program cycle 2.
Thank you.
Okay.
That'd be great to hear. All right. Seeing none, we're on MOE, item 4.3. Thanks, Shauna.
Yeah.
Love all this. Okay, public comment. Do you have something to say, Dwayne, on this?
Trifecta day. I don't.
There you go.
Wear out my welcome, but it's important to speak, especially after what was just brought up. My name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland. I belong to the Sebastopol Grange. I love riding my bike. I like doing all kinds of things. Main thing is, as a boy, looking around, my grandfather always used to tell me, you got to watch what they spend the money on because it's about contracts. It's about who can get something, who can build something. It may not be something that's so necessary or might not need to cost that much. The comment that you just made brought me to mind of Santa Rosa and one of its pet projects, which you folks are helping to finance, I do believe. And that's the bicycle bridge. I was on a junior college committee about the building of the new dorms. And they put those in, and the idea was they were going to have the bicycle bridge come, and that was going to get things going. Well, very few people ride the bicycles on Armory Drive, where some money came from MTC to put in the green bollards, only a couple $100,000, but I could pay a few people. Anyway, long story short, you need to find the need for something based on the folks using it and then build it. All right. And then at the time you're building it, look and see what the economy is like and decide, well, hey, could we do this for less cost perhaps? And I don't mean to detract from the bridge across the freeway, but you can do it in other places. I was up in Sacramento and they built pedestrian bridges across the interstate for $12 million. And we're going to have one across our 101 for close to $40 million. I'm like, couldn't you just maybe get prefabricated, modular truss built and then crane them in and lay them in like they do in many other states across the US instead of a Santa Rosa, Sonoma County type project, which goes on and costs more and more. So give it a thought. We could put a lot of that money into saving our streets. Thank you kindly for your time. Can't say for the rest of the festivities, but thanks for today's trifecta. It was nice.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Hi, welcome back, Shauna.
Hi.
MOE.
So the next item before you is about a revision to the maintenance of effort recommendation. You'll recall that a couple of months ago, we brought you a recommendation that the city of Sebastopol was not in compliance with their maintenance of effort requirement, their baseline. They were about 8% below. And this committee supported that recommendation to the board, and it was supposed to go to the board in May. And then it got pulled from the board agenda in May because Sebastopol told us that they were in the middle of revising their reporting to both ourselves and the state. So we pulled that item. Sebastopol has subsequently submitted new reporting. They are in fact in compliance. They have also provided justification and documentation that they have updated that information with the state. So we feel confident that their reporting is accurate. And so now we, as staff, have revised our recommendation to say that all 10 jurisdictions are in compliance with the MOE requirement. And we are asking for this body to support that recommendation to the board. With that, I would like to give a quick presentation with because MOE is kind of a complicated idea, and it's not everybody understands what it means or why it's required or what we're doing with it. So I just wanted to give you some additional information. As an introduction, the maintenance of effort is used to ensure that transportation-specific fund sources are not supplanting recipients' baseline discretionary expenditures for transportation. Okay? Doesn't want to right now. Did you do that or did I? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Dawn. So there are 3 major categories of road maintenance funding for Sonoma County's 10 jurisdictions that they receive. The first is the Highway Users Tax Account, also known as HUDA. That's its acronym. The SB1 funding from the Road Maintenance Rehabilitation Program, local streets and roads, and then Go Sonoma tax measure. That's what we call GSR funds, the Go Sonoma roads. There we go. So as some background, about a decade ago, HUDA was decreasing because fuel efficiency was going up and electric cars were becoming more popular. So in 2017, the road maintenance funding was increased with the passage of SB1. And we got the Road Repair and Accountability Act. That is what SB1 is called. And that established the Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account and the Local Streets and Roads Funding Program. And so pursuant to statute, a city or county receiving an apportionment of RMRA funds is required to sustain maintenance of effort by spending at least the annual average of its general fund expenditures during the fiscal years that were established, and that was as a baseline, and that was fiscal year 9-10, 10-11, and 11-12. And those funds were meant to be used for street, road, and highway purposes from the city or county's general fund, and monitoring and enforcement of those expenditures is established and is monitored by the state controller's office. So there are a number of eligible activities for that funding. You can use it for road maintenance and rehabilitation, which is in the name. You can also use it for safety projects. You can use it for railroad grade separations. You can use it for complete streets components like active transportation and bicycle and safety projects, transit facilities, and traffic control devices. But the transportation priorities other than that can be funded, but a city or county has to have a pavement condition index of 80 or above, which we all know is relatively challenging in Sonoma County. So they're generally spending it on those other topics. So this is a table that shows you what the projected funding was from those other 2 accounts, not the Go Sonoma funds, but from HUDA and from the Road Maintenance and Rehab Act. And so each year, the combined amount of funding that comes to our jurisdictions is about $50 million from those 2 accounts. The SB1 website has a great FAQ page. And on that page, I thought there was one question that I thought was really relevant. And that is, Will the State Controller's Office consider economic hardship and grant a city or county additional time to meet its RMRP maintenance of effort requirement, or allow a city or county to expand the number of fiscal years it uses from 3 to 5 years when calculating their MOE amount? And the answer is no. It's very soundly no. So that's the requirement from the state. And there is a link there in case anybody wants to follow that. For Go Sonoma, in 2020, we passed the Go Sonoma Act, as you'll recall, and that provides 38% of the measure for the Go Sonoma Roads program. And the Public Utilities Code includes legislation that grants SCTA the authority to pass the transportation tax. And the Public Utilities Code and the Go Sonoma Expenditure Plan both require that SCTA have a maintenance of effort policy. And you can see the table on the right is the amount of funding that Go Sonoma provides or is projected to provide in fiscal year 26-27, and that is about $11 million. So slightly less than what they're getting from those other sources. So the Go Sonoma Expenditure Plan outlines the Go Sonoma Expenditure Plan, and the measure that was passed by the voters defined what the smooth and maintained roads category would be, and that was for fixing potholes. It was estimated to be about $10 million, which is close to our 11. That's with escalation. And it was intended to fix roads and keep them well maintained, but it was also to take into consideration bicycle and pedestrian needs, traffic calming, intelligent transportation systems technology, construction methods and materials that would reduce emissions, and any appropriate safety measures. So when we passed the policy for maintenance of effort, we were trying to streamline the requirement between SCTCA and the state with the SB1 requirements. And that was based on robust input from advisory committee involvement. And there are a few differences between SB1 and Go Sonoma. So the two maintenance of effort requirements are administratively aligned, but sorry, I lost my place. The legislation is separate, and SCTCA is required to adopt a policy aligned with the public utilities requirements. So public utilities tells us what we have to do with our tax money, as opposed to what the state is doing with SB1. The SCTA maintenance of effort policy has several exemptions, which include rolling averages and proportional penalties to ensure that the public utilities requirement is enforced in a fair and meaningful manner. And SCTA maintenance of effort is key accountability requirement for Go Sonoma made to the voters to ensure that funds committed to transportation purposes are not reduced. So relaxing or waiving an MOE requirement could jeopardize future attempts to reauthorize Go Sonoma before the sales tax expires in 2045. So this slide shows you the differences between SB1 and Go Sonoma. SB1 has reporting requirement due in December, and it should include discretionary expenditures, and the final reporting is available on the state controller's website in May. For Go Sonoma, they aren't required to finish their reporting until February. That's 2 months after they provide it to the state. So it should be CAC because they've already reported it to the state. So we give them 2 extra months because we also allow discretionary expenditures with allowable expenses. Or exceptions, sorry. And so the staff reviews all of those exceptions and decides whether or not they're eligible. The staff then provides a summary of all jurisdictions' maintenance of effort requirements, and that usually goes to the committees in April, and then it goes to the board in May. There's an asterisk there because, as I mentioned, we had to pull it in May, and we're a little bit behind because of the revision that Sebastopol made. I'm not going to read all this to you. This is essentially the 3 exceptions that they are allowed to use. The first one is if a major capital project during the fiscal years that are being reported on required accumulating unrestricted revenues. The second one is if a source of unrestricted revenue used to support the major capital project or projects is no longer available. And the third one is if one or more sources of unrestricted revenues that were available to the jurisdictions is producing less than 95% of the amount produced in those fiscal years. It's all in the strategic implementation plan. You are welcome to look at it at your
But
leisure.
Sebastopol didn't, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, sir.
Sebastopol did not have any exceptions.
any exceptions? Yeah.
Make sure I'm all tracking.
Question, hopefully I'm not off track here. So let's say Sebastopol wanted to just utilize repaving and smoothing their potholes. That would be a project that they would apply for funds for, and
They don't apply for these funds. The Go Sonoma Roads funds are apportionment funds. They go to them
so
and they
some of
just
them are
report
go
on
to
how
them
they,
and they can use them. Okay.
and they have these eligible categories where they can spend them.
Is a portion.
It is apportioned. That's correct. That's correct. They report on SB1 directly. They identify which projects they're going to they're going to build, and then they report out on what they did for SB1.
So not to get too much into the weeds, but it goes to a conversation James and I had earlier too. If I'm going to use that to fix potholes, how do I take into account street calming and those sorts of things that you're supposed to take into consideration? How do they prove that they did, I guess is my question.
That's all part of the reporting that they provide on September 15th every year, and then we hear.
And can you give me an example of how that, if I'm just replacing fixing potholes?
Sure. City of Petaluma.
sentence in there
Let's
that's
not
so-
use Sebastopol. Let's use City of Petaluma.
Okay.
City of Petaluma regularly uses their Go Sonoma Roads, or what was Measure M, to fill potholes, but also to provide refreshed striping for stop signs and curb painting and replacement of signs themselves and other safety improvements or complete streets elements. It's all part of what they're doing, and fixing potholes is part of that. And they tell us which percentage of funding that they used in each category.
So the safety kind of becomes an overlying criteria for consideration of all those other things that they have to consider by law. Okay.
Yes, but they're also,
I'm just trying to understand it and.
but we give them a lot of leeway to,
Okay, yeah.
a lot of flexibility, I should say, to spend it where they think it's needed. And then they report out to us on how they spent it. And so that is provided.
That's 30, that's the bucket that's. What
38%.
38%. Thank you. Rick.
Are you finished?
I'm not quite done yet, but I would be happy to answer another question. Okay. So I'm just going to wrap up now. This is just a reminder. I think I already said this, but in March, the Technical Advisory Committee chose not to make a recommendation to the board. In that same month, the CAC chose to support, well, actually it was in April. The CAC did choose to support the recommendation of staff. And then in May, it was supposed to go to the board. It did not. It got pulled. And now we're in July. And last week, because we have revised recommendation, the TAC voted to support the recommendation. And so now it is before this committee. So we are staff is recommending that the CAC recommend forwarding to the SCTCA board that all 10 jurisdictions are in compliance with the Public Utilities Code and Go Sonoma policy. And
you're
with that, I
looking
would
for
be happy to add.
action after the questions that you
That's
get
right.
through. Thank you. Rick?
Okay. Well, Shawna, I was quite surprised to see this on our agenda because I remember at our meeting in April, you were very clear that jurisdictions have one shot at qualifying for these funds. And if they don't make it, then, well, good luck next year. And I also remember that our meeting, there were some members of the committee who were quite upset with the thought of depriving Sebastopol of this money. It was one of the few votes that we've taken here in my recollection, which was not unanimous.
Yeah, thanks.
I remember it was you because you were sitting here then, you were next to me. So, so there are loopholes apparently. Otherwise, this wouldn't be.
Above my
passed.
pay grade, sir.
I mean.
I would say to you that I would report all of the same things that I reported to you in April. And that it, when it came down to it, we decided to make an exception and let them revise their reporting.
The trouble with loopholes is that they tend to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, good point.
Okay.
Sarah's?
So I'm just trying to wrap my head around what changed.
Right.
Can I add then?
Yeah, I mean that if they weren't in compliance.
I had dinner with a
they-
city council member and I said,
Now
why
they
did you
do-
leave money on the table?
What did they do?
And he said, let me look into it. And he said, you have an accounting error. And what they did was they fixed the accounting error. And basically somebody
They audited their
they
financials.
audited their finance department and found out you're not doing this the right way.
So,
They were.
so a little deeper, because I think that's what I gleaned from.
Let's just try to keep one person talking at a time and raise your hand. So go ahead, Tom.
So that's what I had gleaned from reading through the packet today. There's one page in the packet that there are some numbers that are highlighted in yellow highlighter. And the grant, there's two grants. One is discretionary, one is non-discretionary in the Sebastopol accounting. And I didn't understand the sources of those grants. It's not the same money. It's not our GSR money. It's some other grant.
It's discretionary money.
It is.
That's the money that they are required to continue to spend. If they have discretion over the funding, then they cannot take that money off and spend it somewhere else. They have to continue spending that amount of money for transportation since receiving Go Sonoma. They can't, so that's the bottom line, right? If I was spending $20,000 on roads, let's say that's what it was, in a given fiscal year before I got tax money, then I started getting tax money and I took that 20K away and spent it somewhere else. That's not allowed. So they have to maintain that. And so we have the 3-year rolling average that is adjusted for inflation. And, we try to make sure that we're allowing them the ability to account for fluctuations in expenditures with that 3-year rolling average. That provides them with a little bit of wiggle room, if you will, rather than requiring a year to year.
So the bottom line is that there was an error that was made, the error was corrected,
That's right.
and now the staff has a new recommendation to our committee to approve as if the error had never happened.
Correct.
Yes.
All right. Does somebody want to take a crack at that motion or do you have another comment?
No, I have a motion.
All right.
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
A second out there somewhere?
What was the?
The motion is to approve the staff's recommendation that all jurisdictions are in compliance with the MOE.
I'll say.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote? No, we don't have
Nope.
any virtual.
Nope.
All those in favor signify by aye. Opposed? One opposed? Abstention? One abstention. Well, it's one of the more interesting votes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Chair Bly, could you tell me who the abstention?
Why are
was,
we
please?
not doing a roll call today?
It was,
Because we don't have anybody online.
There's nobody,
It's only
virtually.
required.
But he's on the Zoom, I see.
Everybody's here. No.
If you
yes,
want
of
to
course you
vote,
can.
while you're here.
Can I ask one question?
of course.
I love this conversation. I feel like I knew about 30% of what I needed to know, and this is really helpful.
Excellent.
I knew there was a discretionary amount that got apportioned, but that you've just told us that's the only GSR that goes.
Discretionary and apportionment. Those are two
Apportionment.
separate things. The discretionary money is from the jurisdiction. The apportionment is from us.
Gotcha. Switching over to SB1.
Mhm.
Those are applied for projects, more or less, right? There's not just an allotment from that.
There is an allotment, and so they get a target every year, and then the cities and counties have to tell the state what they're going to spend it on, because SB1 has a very robust transparency requirement. So they have to provide that reporting to the state early on in the year. They say, this is what we're going to spend our money on. And then this is separate from the maintenance of effort requirement, by the way. But they say, this is what we're going to spend our money on. The city council has to approve it. The city council or the board of supervisors has to approve it. And then they then have to report out on how they spent the money. If anything had changed, if there were escalations, or if there were cost savings, or if there were additional things that were done, or if they didn't get it all done because there was cost escalation, but they do have to report that out to the state. The state does in fact map all of the projects that are submitted, both proposed and completed.
So if a jurisdiction was to apply for a project, now this is a total fantasy, but let's call it like the rest of Fulton Road. Could be Calistoga Road, right? If they applied for that without improvements to the other infrastructures, without any additional bike lanes, or if they just wanted to fix it so we could use it for a while until they had more money, is there a chance that that project would be approved, or would it just simply not meet the requirements because they weren't doing other things except full depth reclamation?
That's up to the county or the city. They have to take the proposed projects through their city council and then submit them.
No, but it's
So
possible.
I would think that it is possible. It might be questioned, but I think it is possible. Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
So that that's with the city and the county, the jurisdiction where they deem it worthy, and then it comes to our committee here to fund.
Sorry, we're conflating two things. So
Sorry.
I was talking about SB1. SB1 goes straight from the city council approval through staff to the state. We don't see it other than a report that says that they've either done their reporting or they haven't. And then we call them up and go, get your reporting in.
And with our money, it's discretionary, so they can choose to do whatever they wanted to do on Fulton Road with it, as long as they had some safety blanket over the top of it that said we considered all these things.
The Ghost Sonoma Roads funding is an apportionment, which means they get a check quarterly from us. And then at the end of the fiscal year in September, they tell us how they spent it.
Got it.
And then we can, as staff, question them or say, provide more details. And then we bring all of that information to you as part of the annual report.
That is very helpful, Shauna. Thank you very much. Anything else? Yeah, I'm clear.
I did have one more question. Yeah. There was a table in the packet that had the 3-year running average. And I looked at that table and I could not get the 3-year average to match some selected city jurisdictions, what their actual expenditures were. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the table. I was hoping maybe you could take us back through that, because we have had errors in this discussion to date as well. So there's a long.
Tom, are you on page 14 or with the other one?
15. I think he's on page 15.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry.
The one with the green highlighting, this one?
Yeah. 26, 760.
It's not in the packet. It's in the agenda.
It's in the agenda packet. Yeah.
It's not in the
presentation.
Which one did you try, Tom?
All right.
So I mean, these are all.
What are the 3 years in the rolling average? They're not these years.
What I recall.
Correct.
What I recall is like 24, Santa Rosa, or maybe it was Sonoma County. It was like 26, 24, 26, and the 3-year was 17.
Right.
Yeah.
But different 3 years, not these 3 years. That's what the problem is.
It should be. So no, it is these 3 years.
Okay, then it is.
Yeah.
Well, you have these exceptions that go out of there.
Yeah, the exceptions are included, which should be part of the rolling average. And then there's their baseline. So the baseline comes from the first, well, we started with the first 3 years. Right? So
baseline
17,
means
18,
the-
18, 19, and
That
19,
going back to
20.
2012 or something? Is that?
No, we redid it.
changed it,
So
right,
it
so
was,
it's-
I think it was 16,
17.
17 or 17, 18. Yeah, it was in 2017. So I think, but I think it was 17, 18, 18, 19, and
Okay,
19.
so baseline is that first 3 year
It was.
snapshot.
And
Understood.
then after the first 3 years, we adjusted for inflation. And so we use the consumer price index and we try to determine whether or not the inflation was more or less than what the consumer price index is. If it's more, if the consumer price index increase is more than 2%, then we stick with 2%.
So
But
this is
if
the
it's
page.
less, then we use whatever the consumer price index
Right.
increase was.
So in the, not the baseline column, but the one to the left of the baseline,
Yes,
that says 17.
for the
And
county of Sonoma.
the county of Sonoma first row, and it's 26, 27, and 24. And my mind wants to say the 3 year rolling average should be those 3 columns averaged.
With you gotta take exceptions out.
Yeah,
But that
that's
still
what,
doesn't,
Exceptions and negatives.
that's true. Yeah, the exceptions are negatives, so it does bring it down.
The first one goes down to 8.
Makes it right.
I would be happy,
ups that much? I can't.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a lot. It's
It's
18
a-
million. on the
18
first one.
million's a
First
lot.
exception.
all right. I just wanted to draw attention to it because it didn't readily compute for me without looking at a spreadsheet.
and an explanation, I mean, it's not straightforward stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing here, looking at these tables and whatnot. So thank you. Appreciate your patience with me.
Happy to.
All right. Thank you, Shauna.
Sure, there's one more item that I
Oh,
have
wait
to
a minute,
report out on.
wait a minute, wait a minute.
Oh.
Is there any public comment on Shauna's Route 4.3?
We wore them out. We wore the public out.
Go ahead, Shauna, sorry.
So the final item is just the quarterly reporting. You'll recall that for the Go Sonoma projects and also for the STIP fund exchange projects, that is the State Transportation Improvement Plan fund exchange that we did, we require the jurisdictions, the recipients, to provide quarterly reporting, whether or not they've received an appropriation. So they report out to us on the progress of the development of the projects so that we can help track them and use it as a project management mechanism. This is the quarterly reporting for the final quarter, for the final quarter of the fiscal year 25-26. There is a link in your agenda. We did not include them because the packet was already pretty fat. So
Thank you for that.
those reporting, those project information sheets get posted to our website. They're available until the next quarter when it all happens again. But they should be available to you. They were made available to the TAC for quality control purposes, and they are provided for your information.
Where was the link? I had a hard time with the links in the agenda. I
Yes,
couldn't get
we
any.
did. We did find that there was a bit of a hiccup with the links. The link is at the very bottom of the staff report under the table of the project lists.
Yeah, I downloaded it off the web just before the meeting and did click through on that link and it was working. And I want to thank you for the Sonoma citywide, the City of Sonoma projects fact sheet update, because it did look like it's been addressed.
Great.
And but I'll point out that I think I saw, I haven't read the article yet, but apparently there's some kerfluffle in the City of Sonoma about that.
We are aware.
I gotta talk to you. I have no idea.
Next door comment.
I've been on vacation.
Well, Shauna, thank you for unraveling a big ball of yarn for us. I appreciate
Happy to.
that. Thank you very much. I think this is the time to ask the one question I had, which came up tonight, is we had the public comment. And maybe this is something you're putting into the protocol. Is there a time limit as chair for the public comment section? It's not really a problem. You know, I don't want to use anybody's particular name, but interesting comments, but to keep the moving meeting moving along, is there 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, or forever?
The public comment can be any length as long as you use the exact same time for every person. So if
Can
you
we
choose
make a
1
motion
minute,
to change that though?
that I believe would be
3 minutes.
right.
The board uses 3 minutes.
We use
Is that
3 minutes in
something that
this.
I can call on the rest of
organization.
the committee for their opinion on that?
I guess as this committee, if you wanted to do that, you could. But right now, all committees for SCTCA and our board use 3 minutes as their set time.
Done.
That said, on.
Correct.
The PAC agenda, as long as you're fair to all of the commenters.
Yeah.
You should be fine to.
I could opt for 2 minutes and see if this committee would go with that, but to be uniform, I would say let's stick to 3 because the other committee, thank you for that, okay?
And my point would be to say, we leave it to your discretion because there may be certain agendas that are longer, more actionable items on it that we need to move along, and you might need to shorten public comment as a result. Other times we may be, like last meeting, we had ample time
Oh,
because
yeah.
Healdsburg didn't show. We could have had 10 minutes from the public.
Right. Right, world record closing time.
We would have been very entertained, I'm sure.
Thank you, Rick.
Well, as long as we're talking about public comment, I wanted to make a comment. I regard myself not only as a member of this committee, but as a member of the public. And it is, and occasionally I might have something I'd like to say to this committee that does not have to do with anything on the agenda, so it belongs more in the public comment section. At the last meeting, it seemed to be implied that if you're a member of this committee, you're not a member of the public and you're not entitled to make comments. I would like to review that policy because I really think that there are times when one of us might want to make something that belongs in the public comment section and is not part of the regular agenda.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, I had a quick, go ahead.
You may notice that at the end of the agenda, we have tried to address that by putting a catch-all category. So there will be an opportunity for members to bring up topics that they would like to see agendized, topics that they feel are more public comment that aren't on the agenda, and other announcements. That all is fitting under that last agenda item now. And if I leave it up to the committee, but
Yeah,
we did add that because.
And
of
I don't
the
think there's
information
ever
received.
been any intent to cut people off and so forth, not intentionally. So if somebody felt that, then I think that, you know, we got to recognize that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the last meeting, we got a little off track because there was starting to be discussion about something that wasn't on the agenda. If you're going to be, I have used the public comment portion of the meeting usually to relay a comment that was made to me by another member of the public. And I do it as at that time of the meeting with the discretion of the chair allowing me to do so. But I do it, I heard this in the community, bang. No discussion, but this committee should know about that.
Just one comment from being on the advisory group for MTC. They have the same thing at the end of the meeting for the committee members.
Right.
And you can talk about events coming up. You can also talk about, I really have this opinion on such and such. It's the one place for committee members. The public section was for the public, for those who don't have the opportunity in the ear all the time. And so they get the front of the meeting.
That's right.
So we get the tail end of the meeting.
I think that's okay.
It feels balanced to me.
Drove me nuts, but I think it's okay.
Very good. All right. Yeah,
Well,
David.
after that last meeting, we did have a bit of discussion that, you know, there are topics like the one that I'm raising is what technology changes are going to impact the protocols that we should be seeing applied to projects. You know, is technology round points reducing the need to add more lanes? You know, that, you know, how do we start to deal with that? I mean, that's really, staff needs to be, they're closer to the technical side of these projects, but somehow in oversight, we'd like to know when is this stuff starting to impact how projects are being planned?
Yeah, are we making the correct, do we still have correct assumptions that we're basing our approvals and disapprovals on? I don't know. Is there checks and balances built into the staff that you get, or do we just rely on Chris, the know-all, be-alls, or Sears?
We do try to have staff support all of the information that's brought to you and to, I mean, I have confidence in the jurisdictions staff and their knowledge base and their ability to manage incoming and new technologies. And so they are applying as best they can what is coming down the pike.
Excellent.
John.
I just have one recommendation as far as posting for our meetings. We have the posting for the meeting, it has the link to the agenda. And inside the agenda, there's often links. And so if you're reading through everything, you're finding all of the links. I often miss a link. Again, from the experience with the MTC, the standard of the MTC was there is an agenda and it has everything in it. But also on the site for the meeting, every link that was going to be mentioned any place on the agenda is also a link on that page, so you can't miss it. And you know everything's to be discussed, what material's available. If more material comes available, the link shows up there instead of having to load an agenda again, which you've probably already read and made notes on. Then you have the extra material that you can pull in.
Noted. We, as Ross mentioned, we are having a meeting later this week, so bring that up when we discuss it internally.
Every month, I'm impressed by this committee and the staff, and I mean that in all sincerity. This is complicated stuff. It's not hard for me to recognize why it's difficult to bring new people onto this board. My God, this is a learning process every month. I don't know that you could have a 1 hour session and get anybody new up to speed without having the 10 or 15 year experience collectively that we all have. Appreciate you guys. So thank you.
We appreciate you too.
Adjourn.
Watch for tractors. We're gonna start picking grapes. Watch for tractors.
Yeah,
watch for tractors.